Back in the distant past of 1991, the comic book publisher Dark Horse acquired the rights to create Star Wars-based comic books. Fast forward to the slightly less distant past of 2002, Dark Horse released a three-part miniseries entitled Star Wars Infinities. The idea that each book would contain an alternate version of the original trilogy films. Spoiler alert, they really aren't that different. Star Wars Infinities, A New Hope, starts off with the first battle of the Death Star. Luke successfully fires his proton torpedoes into the Death Star's exhaust port. Everything is going well except for the fact that one of the torpedoes blows up prematurely just before it reached the reactor. I bet that happens to you a lot, doesn't it, Luke? With the Death Star still intact, the rebels are losing their shit. Han and Luke get chased away by a fleet of TIE fighters while the Death Star gets in range of the rebel base on Yavin 4. But don't fear, true believers! The torpedo that exploded earlier damaged the Death Star's power grid, meaning that not all of the rebels will be killed. So, Tarkin orders the Death Star to fire, even though it's at half power, destroying the rebel base, but somehow not killing Leia, the fan favorite Jan Dodonna, and some other guy. The three escape on a GR-75 transport ship. You know, those big ones that the rebels always have. How? I don't know, because it's shown off panel. But as they make their escape from the planet's surface, the Death Star destroys Yavin 4, and Darth Vader and his TIE fleet quickly capture them. Hey, remember that cool scene from Episode 5 when Han flies through the asteroid field? Well, that happens with Han and Luke. But luckily, Luke just fucking loses it after he sees Yavin get blown up and kills like 4 TIE fighters. But luckily, the Empire's greatest enemy, asteroids floating aimlessly in space, saves them. After they get out of the asteroid field, Han and Luke make a jump to light speed and escape. But once they meet up, Han and Luke get into a little bit of a fight, with Han wanting to spend the rest of his years hiding from the Empire and just doing Han stuff, I don't know, like smuggling and just being a degenerate, and Luke trying to guilt-trip Han and Chewie into helping him take down the Empire. This gives us this great image of Luke. Yeah, Luke, I do think that's funny. Han pushes Luke away and they get into a scuffle, which ends with Luke pulling out his lightsaber and shouting, "We haven't even started!" Luckily, Obi-Wan's Force Ghost shows up and he talks Luke down. Now, in the panel, it is clearly shown that Han was getting ready for his blaster. And since Luke got his lightsaber like 2 days ago, Han would have definitely killed Luke. Also, when Obi-Wan shows up, Luke exclaims, "Ben!" Which Han replies with, "Ben? You're nuts." Okay, so, just real quick, put yourself in Han's boots for a second. You just got into a tussle with some kid named Luke that you barely met. He pulls out this lightsaber or something. I don't know. You're just a smuggler. You don't know these things. And then he starts just talking to an invisible dead guy you just met. What do? You follow the kid's plans, that's what you do, and they head to Dagobah. Meanwhile, on the capital planet of the Empire, aka Coruscant, Vader takes Leia to meet the Emperor, who has taken residence in an old Jedi temple. He talks about some stuff and ominously tells Vader to see to the princess as a triumph as inevitable as destiny is coming. Meanwhile, on the shitty planet of Dagobah, Han lands and the party treks out into the unknown. Now, it doesn't really say how long they were walking for, but it seems like they just immediately run into a small green Muppet. Yoda does his whole spiel about being some old hermit and totally not Yoda, and Luke, being a dumb farm boy, buys it, while Han immediately figures out that Yoda is lying to them. And hey, guess what? We jump back to Coruscant. That's gonna happen a lot in this book. An unknown time later, Leia is dressed in an all-black suit, and Vader brings her C-3PO and Obi-Wan's lightsaber. Leia tries to attack Vader, and Vader's like,
"Okay, she has potential."
Later, Vader tells Leia that the Emperor is getting weak and old, and that they can kill him, and together
rule the galaxy as apprentice and master.
Hey, guess what we do? We cut back to Dagobah, with Luke training, and hey, Yoda's on his shoulders. Han and Chewie have been repairing the Falcon from their previous battle. Remember that scene with the dark side cave in Empire? Yeah, that happens, except it's Leia's face in the Vader helmet. Cut to 5 years later. In a bar in someplace off in the galaxy, Han and Chewie sitting around drinking and watching the news. And the news is broadcasting this grand Imperial parade that is currently happening on Coruscant, since it is the 5-year anniversary that the rebellion was defeated. Suddenly, Leia walks up to the podium in front of everybody and starts talking about how her involvement in the Rebel Alliance was a mistake and how great the Empire is. Seeing this, Han and Chewie leave the bar, but they are seen by 2 aliens, dun, 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 who I'm sure have probably expansive backstories and their own action figures and cartoon lines and lunchboxes. And they decide to go after Han for the bounty Jabba placed on his head. Han and Chewie escape after having a brief gun battle, or blaster battle? Gunfight? Blaster fight? Whatever. Shootout in the streets. And they head for Dagobah, where Luke is wearing his black outfit from Episode 6. Now, I have no idea how he got it or where he got it, because they don't explain it. Maybe Yoda had a human-sized outfit lying around for some odd reason. Maybe Luke made it. Maybe it's his old outfit that just got so dirty it blackened. Anyways, it's not important to the story. Luke goes back into the dark side cave where he sees like 6 prequel characters for some reason, along with Vader, the Emperor, and evil Leia in some weird hallucination where they're all floating around. Han interrupts his spiritual journey in the cave, but suddenly, a snake appears behind Han. But don't worry, since Han isn't Indiana Jones, he doesn't flip his shit. And he just grabs the snake and tosses it away. So, Han, Chewie, Luke, R2, and Yoda all sit around a campfire, and they're eating s'mores and grilling hot dogs, and Han tells Luke about Leia, and before they leave, Yoda sits Luke down and tells Luke that Vader is his father. And Luke does his famous line,
"It's not true. That's impossible!"
So, as they're leaving, Luke decides to have a nice chit-chat with Obi-Wan's Force Ghost. And Yoda tags along since he says that Han owes him after all the food he ate. Hey, guess what? We're back on Coruscant. This time, the Death Star is blocking the sun and everything's dark for the Imperial parade thing. They're showing off the might of the Empire. And the Falcon comes out of lightspeed right into the Imperial fleet. They dock in the Death Star, again. And Yoda takes R2-D2 with him as he mind tricks all the stormtroopers to escort him to Grand Moff Tarkin. Meanwhile, Han and Luke infiltrate the Imperial Palace on the surface. They run into some of the Emperor's royal guards, and Luke force grabs a dropped double-sided lightsaber and launches it at 2 guards and fucking cuts them right in half. Like, yeah, holy shit, Luke, Jesus. But luckily, the duo meet up with C-3PO in the hallways, and he gladly leads them to Leia. But uh-oh, C-3PO led them into a trap. Leia and Luke ignite their lightsabers, and Luke drops the bomb on her that they're siblings. The Emperor's like, no, you're not. Don't listen to him, Leia. And Luke does the whole, search your feelings. You know it be true. Then the biggest twist in the whole series happens. C-3PO grabs onto Han and holds a fucking blaster to his head. Like, holy shit. That caught me by surprise. Anyway, Luke and Leia have a lightsaber fight while Yoda uses the Death Star to destroy the Emperor fleet that's in orbit. Then Leia snaps out of it, I guess. I guess she searched her feelings or something, and they both stop fighting. And Vader learns that Luke and Leia are his kids, and the Emperor starts electrocuting him, just like in Episode 6. I think you can guess what happens next. Vader stops the Emperor and distracts him long enough for the gang to escape. With Vader on the ground after getting electrocuted by the Emperor, Yoda's green face appears on the giant TV screen that's in the room for some reason, and is like, hey, your fleet sucks. And the Emperor's like, ah, you little green fool. The Death Star's weapons have been disabled. Luckily, Chewie picks up Luke and friends just in time before Yoda crashes the entire Death Star into the planet. The book ends with a mix of the ceremonies from Episode 1 and 4 with the Force Ghosts from Episode 6. The end. Like, it literally says the end on the last panel.